Hello, everybody, and welcome. Today, we're diving into the advantages of moving your WordPress website to HubSpot Content Hub. Many of you are already enjoying the power and ease of use of HubSpot CRM or Marketing Hub software, but we've noticed there's real hesitation when it comes to bringing your website along for the ride. This means that too many businesses are left wrestling with clunky WordPress websites that are either slow, hard to edit, or not connected to the rest of their data. So today we're going to discuss why moving your website to HubSpot could be one of the best business decisions you make. We assume that you've got some of HubSpot software in your business already, but most of the information we share today stands, it's true still and applies equally to Content Hub as a standalone content management platform. And today I'm happy to be joined by Dennis Edson to discuss this topic. Dennis is a developer advocate over at HubSpot, where he helps customers unlock the full potential of their platform. And prior to joining HubSpot, Dennis has spent many years in and around the website development world, in-house, at agencies, and as a freelance developer too. So I'm sure he's got lots of insights to share with us today. Hi, Dennis. Thanks for being here today. So have you come across WordPress much in those years?
Gosh, I might have heard this word a couple times in my life. Thank you for the intro, by the way, and thanks for having me on.
Thank you.
Prior to my life at HubSpot, I worked at an agency where I did very much that hybrid approach of CMS development on HubSpot as well as development on WordPress. And let me tell you, we were always eager to move them off of WordPress over to HubSpot because just, oh my God, the maintenance cost of it was so much easier and just so much better for us. But prior to that, I almost exclusively did WordPress development because I'd never even heard of HubSpot. Honestly,
Right.
this is like we're talking about like 10 years ago at this point. And yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things that go into it, and I'm so happy to have learned about HubSpot and fully migrated myself over into the HubSpot. Well, literally, quite literally, me into the HubSpot ecosystem.
Yes, impressive that you've moved your website and your entire existence over to the HubSpot ecosystem. Very good. Yeah, okay, great. So you have come across WordPress and therefore you will have experienced its pros and its cons. And of
Indeed,
course, we're going to talk today about what for businesses that are looking to use their website to grow makes HubSpot so attractive compared to WordPress. So to help us navigate this topic, I've tried to sort of break it out into themes that I think layer up and build up quite nicely, from the sort of most fundamental to some of the more novel and innovative. But before we get into that, if you're watching live and you have questions, please do feel free to post them into the chat. We'll have a look at those at the end if there's time, and if there are any there. So yeah, please feel free to ask your questions while we go along. So it really is interesting to me what HubSpot has done with its CMS, with Content Hub, with its website
mhm,
hosting platform, and that there are so many elements that make it an attractive destination after you've either outgrown WordPress or you've become frustrated with the challenges that WordPress presents as a result of its nature. And
mhm,
I think we ought to start with the most fundamental, the basis of it all,
yeah,
the infrastructure that's behind this web hosting platform. I think it's crucial, and I
yeah.
think HubSpot's done something really interesting here.
No, I mean, so just recently, I was hosting. I help out with a developer hug group, and we were talking to a company called Replit, who does this whole delivery, so deployment, app to deployment. And it brought up the servers that you have to start thinking about when you're starting to deploy your app. And it's like started having nightmares. Like, oh my God, this brings me back to my WordPress day when I actually had to start thinking about end to end every aspect of it, from the security to what if I have a big surge in traffic. I mean, are my servers going to be able to handle it?
Yeah.
It's overwhelming. So I love the fact that HubSpot offers you secure, maintained servers at all times, and you've got a giant team there ready to pounce on any issues. Um, we have this thing in HubSpot called crit sits. Something big happens in the ecosystem,
Mhm.
The second a crit hit happens, a notification goes off into our internal Slack, and senior leadership on it right there, and everyone's just tackling that. And I can't do that as a freelance developer, be there for everything that happens on a WordPress site.
Yeah, I've noticed that, of course, WordPress, requires infrastructure on which to run, and for lots
Mhm,
of businesses, they'll be the ones piecing together that infrastructure, which also means they're the ones responsible for its reliability, its
mhm,
redundancy, its scalability, and all those sorts of challenges. Now, you can procure that, infrastructure in a managed way, but
sure.
you're never truly free from, I think, responsibility for its performance,
No,
its
by no means.
security, and its reliability. And so
Yeah.
the fact that HubSpot have put together a solution which encompasses all of the tech and all of the services and teams that are required to basically remove that
Mhm.
headache, I think is
Yeah.
what makes it such a wondrous platform, actually.
No, no, I mean, one thing, like, WordPress updates, when that happens, you see that, icon show up. It scares me a little bit, honestly, because like that means okay, I need to go start testing everything that I've done to this site, all the plugins. I had to make sure they're all compatible. Where do I do this in the first place? Because now I need to build a development server, to go ahead and build out this site again to make sure everything's working, make sure my data is all in sync. It's a lot. It's labor intensive, and that's just done for you with the CMS on HubSpot.
Yeah, I mean, that can happen. That can happen any day. And if, as a business, you're not able to rely upon the availability of your website
No,
from
no, no
one
joke.
day
I
to
mean,
the next,
if there's like a security flaw in WordPress and okay, you have to update, but when you update, it just breaks your site. I mean, it's a no-win situation, right? I
right?
mean,
Yeah.
there's a lot of time that has to go into the testing of any update that happens in WordPress.
Yeah, yeah, exactly, exactly. Even as an agency of sorts, I
Hmm.
don't really think of Blend as an agency, but I suppose in the context of this conversation, we are.
Hmm.
Even I prefer the HubSpot approach because I know that HubSpot is far better placed to
Hmm.
maintain these systems than I can
Yeah,
for
yeah.
my client. And yet, it's such a common model to procure your website infrastructure from your agency and have them update it and run it and secure it for you. And I just think that's not it's just not smart when you think
No.
about what skills are required and availability of resource and so on. So HubSpot's approach to putting together the infrastructure, which they maintain,
Hmm.
update, secure, test, monitor for you, it's a no-brainer, I think. And that
It's
alone for me is reason to consider it.
I mean, how much money are you spending on the actually maintaining it yourself? Ultimate, like I I get it. Owning a WordPress site means you own a WordPress site, which is kind of cool in a lot of ways. But with that becomes there's a ton of responsibility associated with that. And do you really want to be focusing on that, or do you want to be focusing on actually getting leads into your site? I
Yeah.
think that's pretty obvious.
Yeah. And I think most of us have even forgotten what infrastructure is. Like, this is servers,
Hmm.
networks, load balancing, data centers. Like, there's so much going on there that is critical and yet
Yeah.
really isn't what we need to spend our time worrying about.
I mean, if you have a huge sale on your site and you have a spike in traffic and your site goes down, what was the value of having that sale? You just kind of lost everything. Whereas if you have it on HubSpot, the load balancing is going to be taking place. Your servers are not going to go down, and everything should be successful.
Yeah. And over the years, I've seen this hold true and I've enjoyed and I've been able to rely upon it, which is fantastic. And I think infrastructure is the foundation, and I think that's what makes the next sort of theme possible, which is
Mhm,
fundamental performance, sort of platform performance, which feeds software performance from a CMS
mhm, mhm.
perspective. And I think here too, HubSpot's done something amazing when you compare it to the situation that a lot of web businesses using WordPress find themselves in. Would you agree?
No, I totally agree. And once again, you can do all these things on WordPress, but each one is bespoke and this a plugin to itself. You need to know what you're doing with each part of it. It's not easy, honestly. It just becomes more and more maintenance costs in the end. Having a proper CDN, this is huge, right? This is like your site's just available anywhere on the globe. A cached version of it's ready to go, and you don't have to worry about it. That's just done. SSL automatic. Back in the day, HubSpot, I remember it was kind of a difficult process of setting it up. Now it's
Yeah.
like just flipping a switch, and you're done. No worries there. I can go through this list, but I'll stop and let you talk.
No, I think you nailed it. It's interesting how back in the sort of earlier formative days of HubSpot as a CMS, I always thought, wow, in SSL, HubSpot's gone after one of the trickiest, most complex problems that businesses face when it comes to setting up their infrastructure, and they've
Mhm.
dared to try and solve it, and they did.
Yeah, I
Okay,
know.
there were some niggles, but and it's got so much easier over time.
It's dumb. I say it in the most positive way. It's like it's just stupid easy. It's like you just you type it in and you let HubSpot do its thing. It's gonna go talk to GoDaddy, whoever it might be, and boom, your DNS is set up, which is just
Yeah.
brilliant.
Yeah, and I had similar problems back in the day when I was trying to, you know, configure caching,
Hmm,
which
hmm.
essentially was like a poor man's CDN at the time, and I
Yeah.
had real problems with that as well. And yet another thing built right in.
Yeah, Phil. I mean, like seriously, I forget the caching plugin I used, but when I first started using it, I was like, "What the heck am I doing?" I mean, okay, should I do X, Y, and Z, or just X or X, Y? There's so many options that this is not my. I make websites pretty.
Yeah.
That's what I did. I didn't want to focus on this at all.
One of the things I remember when we first decided to sort of adopt HubSpot, we were in a fortunate position. We weren't really deeply ingrained in other CMSs, and HubSpot came along. And this list that's on screen now is just like it just ticked the list of requirements that I had for a proper B2B,
Hmm.
professional CMS.
Yeah.
Um, and so I think, some of these words may not make a lot of sense to people, but by adding SSL and CDN, which are kind of pivotal
Hmm,
to
hmm.
image optimization, minification, you can't really ask for more in terms
No.
of a like latent potential performance.
Yeah, no, no. Without SSL, you don't have a site, in my opinion, right? Like, no one's going to go to that or trust it. You're going to get warnings on Chrome, wherever you're using, that it's not secure, and so why do it in the first place? I think image optimization, like we've done so much with that recently, like from lazy loading to actually optimizing the image that is sent to you. And when I mean lazy loading, I mean when you load a web page, there might be an image down below that does not need to be loaded yet, right?
Yeah.
So it makes your site go faster, load faster to the user. They can see what they need to see, and then when it's necessary, loads that image, which we do that for you for free, which is pretty darn cool.
Yeah. Are there any performance measures that I missed off the list that you think are pretty cool, or did I get the good ones there?
No, no. I mean, the one maybe we should like Broadly is such a weird one. Like, the name itself is like so weird. I think it's really
Yeah. What
cool.
is it?
Broadly is it's like gzip on steroids, which is also like you compress the files into as small a thing as possible, and then it allows it to uncompress once it gets to your site, like fewer bytes going over the internet, right? And what Broadly does is like it builds libraries of commonly used words within your code and makes it much easier for your computer or your browser to decompress that. It's so much
Okay.
quicker. It's like lightning.
Brilliant. Thanks for telling me that, because I've been saying that HubSpot's great because it's got Brotli for quite a while now, and I haven't necessarily fully
Yeah,
understood what it's doing. So that's really
Broadly
helpful. And I'm
feels like
sure
yeah, it feels like a vegetable that I don't want to eat, but it's really very important.
eat your Brotli, Dennis. Eat your
Yeah,
Brotli.
seriously.
Um, yeah, that's brilliant. And I mean, like I said, it just if you had a wish list for a
Hmm.
website and what it had included, like this is it. And so HubSpot's got it all built in. Now, before we put the next slide on, I will say that this is the sort of performance features of the platform.
Hmm.
Websites do have to still be developed on top of this, and
Indeed.
you can help or you can hinder performance when it comes to how you develop. But on the next slide, as proof positive of this performance potential, wow, that was some serious alliteration right there. Um, yeah, we've got some scores from recent websites that, of course, we've built here at Blend, but
Yes, yes.
it should come to no surprise to anyone listening that like these are all high in the greens, and
Hmm.
that is thanks to the 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 technology that's in this CMS, that we harness, that we make sure not to get in the way of, that we
Mhm.
stay clear of in terms of harnessing that speed. So you can get great results, the best results with HubSpot CMS beneath your website. And there you go. That
No,
just goes to show it.
can I just double click into that? I mean, I agree, and you can tell I've drank the orange Kool-Aid pretty seriously, so I'm like all about HubSpot all the time. But if you don't have the proper development team doing it, they can get pretty bad. I mean, those can be read pretty easily if the wrong people are working with your site. Um,
Yes.
so yes, HubSpot brings all kinds of great features for you, but there is still some responsibility in who's going to be, actually building it initially. You don't have to worry about those abstract concepts of CDNs, SSL, things like that, optimizations. That's we got you there. But if you bring bad code, you bring bad code, right?
Right. Absolutely. True of all CMSs, I'm sure.
True of
In terms of
everything.
you can do good. Yeah,
True of life,
absolutely.
you know?
But yes, okay, now we're getting deep. But you're right. Yeah, but we certainly pride ourselves here on like lean, mean code that performs
Mhm,
to the best potential of the platform. All right, great. If we bring up the next slide, it'll take us to our next theme, which is editability, which is actually a pretty thorny subject in my opinion. And I reckon there's some subjectivity to it. What's your
mhm.
take on the topic of editability and HubSpot's approach?
Anything you wanna do, you can do. Well, it depends on how you wanna go about this. Are you talking about, like, the ability for a marketer to go in and actually update a page? Or are you talking about, changing a brand, like, changing the colors for a brand, or both?
Well, I mean, certainly most of my focus is on marketers
Mhm.
evolving and editing their website because, you know, usually businesses don't change their brand rapidly,
Yeah.
regularly.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And so while a theme having the ability to support different brands is a really great asset in terms of helping lots of people get started quickly and easily, once they're up and running, it'll be edits to their website, edits to the content, the layout
Indeed.
that are going to preoccupy them.
For sure. I mean, starting just to cover it, brand. I mean, I think HubSpot does a great job of like allowing the developer to build an easy way. If you have a brand refresh that changes the font, there's a place in HubSpot where you can just change the font that you're using or the brand colors. So I just to cover that real quickly, yes. With the actual page editor, I have absolute nightmares of using Divi Builder in WordPress because it
Mm,
was this monster that, oh my god, it was unreliable. It broke all the time. I hated it. Um, the page editor experience in HubSpot has transformed significantly over the years. The drag and drop editor is great.
yeah.
Uh, it's obvious once again, this is all assumes that you got a good development team who is really thinking marketer forward, who is adding the correct fields for the places that you want them to be able to edit the code and not. There are areas where you don't want anyone to touch, so you can restrict that, which is nice.
Yes.
But yes, it's the control is much, much nicer through the HubSpot experience, in my opinion.
Yeah. I definitely agree. I've got a couple of hot takes here that I'm interested in
Okay,
your
go.
opinion on. See if you gasp or not.
Mhm, mhm.
Um, so drag and drop, regardless of
Mhm.
platform, I think is sort of
It's
mixed
clunky.
blessing.
Yeah, no, I don't think I cannot think of the perfect experience anywhere. I have 2 complaints. One, it can be clunky, right? You drag it, it just doesn't quite go the right place you want to go. That's one. 2, to actually build a good, drag and drop, editor, you gotta add extra code on the back end. There's gonna be more divs that are going to be added in there so you can actually insert the code to where you want it to go. Um,
Yes.
not too much, unless you have a point me in the right direction, but I've not seen a better way of doing it. Um, let me know though, please.
No, I concur. I think that like
I'm sorry.
it, and I really appreciate the transparency there because I agree
Mhm.
with everything you said. And where I was going with it was also drag and drop doesn't make me a designer, and I mean like me. So
Yeah.
I know that even with drag and drop flexibility, I'm terrible at creating web
Oh
pages.
my god, you do not want me to design a dang thing.
Which is why I really value sections. I
Mhm,
really value the
mhm.
HubSpot feature sections, and I really value the way our team utilizes them because sections basically elevate drag and drop to a
Right?
higher order, a higher level, and they make my life so much easier.
Thank you. No, I cannot disagree with you at all on that one. Sections changed everything. It's like this pretty thing shows up, and all I do is type in some copy, cut a couple images here and there. I love it.
Absolutely, absolutely. So if you're commissioning a HubSpot website, then we both strongly encourage you to inquire about how sections will be used, like
Mhm.
inquire how sections are going to be deployed to make your marketers' lives really easy. Because for me, that's the secret sauce to a great experience on HubSpot. But
Yeah.
across CMSs, drag and drop is the norm, and I think HubSpot's approach is as good, better probably than any. It just doesn't make me a designer overnight, unfortunately.
Oh,
I
for
wish it did.
sure. Yeah, I mean,
Um,
like, yeah, I suggest not hiring me to do any of your design work. That's also
Likewise,
put in
likewise. Well, hire my team, not me. Yeah, the other thing that I think is like, I don't know, maybe this doesn't hold water, but I think the consistency of the editor from one HubSpot portal to another is actually an advantage. I've noticed that when I interact with WordPress websites, the editing experience is different every time. It-
every single time. You just
and
don't know.
Exactly, exactly. And even when I've spun up 2 WordPress websites in very quick succession, I seem to encounter different editing, and I've
Oh,
got no
wow,
way
wow.
of explaining it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I didn't get on great with, the various drag and drop builders that themselves are plugins to WordPress that have to be updated and
Mhm.
learned. And so I think the fact that, HubSpot's this commercially, like, backed, consistent system, so it's gonna be the same and improving, and you're never going to suddenly one day wake up and have to figure out a completely new editing interface. And I just think
Yeah.
that's got hidden value
No,
for
no,
people.
I totally agree. I mean, there's iterations, obviously, right? Things will change, but it's gonna be consistent across the board, first of all. I mean, we've when I worked at the agency, we'd reject certain places or sites for working with them just because the WordPress editor experience was just so bad. Like it'd be more time for us to actually figure this out and do a proper. We'd have to redo it, right? It wasn't worth it. Um, so the idea of like you not having to worry about this is more agency speak, honestly. I think because you often are working like with 100 different sites perhaps,
Yeah.
so you want that consistency to happen. But it was key. It was huge.
Yeah. I do agree that it probably has the greatest value to people who work with lots of sites simultaneously. But I also even think even if you move business and they've got HubSpot,
Mm,
you'll be able to hit the ground running
that's a
with
great
their
point.
editing experience.
Yeah.
And so many businesses are adopting HubSpot. It's not unusual to hear of it happening.
Hmm.
Um, And then, I think HubSpot's editing experience with the ability to, insert and edit text, images, buttons, CTAs, links, it's all there. It's all very easy
Sure.
to work with and easy to use. So it's pretty great experience from
Yeah,
that
and
regard.
we're not even going to be touching on like the content hub side of things, where I mean, all the AI assistance you get, with the whole editing experience. That's we're not even there. We're talking about the more fundamental stuff right now.
We are, but you are right that is like, the pushing the boundaries of what's
Mhm.
possible and adding immense value. So within Content Hub, to your point, you're getting a great CMS that we think is probably one of the best for businesses here, and you're getting the new features of Content Hub. So for example, as you were saying, Dennis, within, editing experience, you might use AI content generation
Yeah.
to quickly rewrite or improve or create copy, for example.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I know this is an aside, but like just the meta description alone, the one of the most forgotten things in the world that people just don't do, and they just like, all right, fine, I have to put something in there, and it's
Right.
usually garbage. Like with a click of a button, it's going to summarize that page. It's yeah, it's a gem.
That's very good. That's very true. That's very true. Okay, so we talked about infrastructure.
Sorry,
Talked
sorry,
about
total aside.
No, it's cool. It's cool. We talked about performance. We talked about the editing experience. Where do we go next? If we bring up the next slide, because my list has gone. To be perfectly honest with the audience, my list of topics has gone due to a computer fault on this end. So yeah, um, what's this one? I can't even read that.
SEO, CTA. This is the
Oh,
market. This is the good
it's
stuff.
the
This is the good
built-in
stuff.
it's the built-in suite
Yes.
of marketing tools that
Oh,
basically everybody after you launch your WordPress website, you typically go and start bolting on all of these core functions, core features,
Frankenstein's.
partic-
Yep.
particularly for B2B marketers
Hmm.
that aren't present, but you can't live without them.
Yeah. No. First of all, I that that image of the WordPress with the updates and plugins is already like making my heart pound a little bit
I,
more. I,
yeah,
I,
that's a familiar. That's a familiar feeling right there, isn't it?
I
Oh God,
apologize.
this again.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, yeah,
But like, I mean, my wife, she works for a nonprofit, and this is not atypical. Like, you start your site, you realize you need something else. You did it on WordPress, so you have to go find some barnacle out there, basically, to barnacle on to your site to do the thing. That happens 100 different times. You're paying for subscriptions and you don't even know anymore, right? You're not sure where your data is going, which brings up a whole EU thing that, you don't know how you're dealing with that.
yeah. Right.
Instead, I mean, it's all there. I mean, your forms are like just connected. You don't have to use gravity forms. You don't need to connect that later on. SEO, oh my God. I mean, we were a marketing company first, right? We build marketing websites. SEO is like top order business for us.
Yeah,
So done. A/B testing, so freaking cool, right? Like just right there. Like these are all these little barnacles you're adding on to your WordPress site that on that little plugin manager right there is going to be redder and redder and redder. I mean, like that's
yeah,
blood pressure medication right there.
yeah.
Um, I'll stop talking. That yeah,
Even if you can find the plugin that you need, because I think
right,
like forms is like a must-have, and there's a solution for that, but it's built in.
yeah,
SEO, A/B testing, but like CTAs, calls to action, where you can actually test messaging, measure the
hmm,
impact on. Certainly, when I was looking, I couldn't find anything WordPress for
right.
WordPress that offered me that functionality, and HubSpot
Take
had
it
it.
one step further, Phil. Take it like smart content plus CTAs. So you have a CTA specific to a new visitor. That visitor comes back later on, different CTA for that person.
Indeed.
I mean, like that's what, and that's magic right there.
Smart content personalization is actually uh, sort of what's the word I'm looking for here? It's well, it's a much bigger deal, I think, than it sounds, right? Like
Hmm.
businesses typically historically prior to HubSpot to be able to get a CMS that supported personalization,
Hmm.
you'd
Hmm.
normally be looking at something very enterprise and
Right.
probably very costly and
Hmm.
hard to work with. Personalizing your WordPress website to your visitors, to your audience, that just
I
wasn't
mean,
possible.
yeah, yeah. I mean, people typically think like just personalization's high dentist. It's so much more than that. Like you have a software company that works with different industries. If you know the persona of the person visiting your site, you can show different industry specific things to that person. I mean, that's gold right there.
Yeah,
And honestly,
absolutely.
like I don't know if we ever really discovered a good way to do it on WordPress. I'm sure it's out there somehow. It just I don't know what the special sauce, what the ingredients would be to make that work properly.
Yeah, I always found that it led me to very different platforms and different solutions that just weren't right for the types of businesses we were talking to. So yeah, it's
Yeah.
like it's gold dust, like you said, it's gold dust.
And then the email marketing, I mean, that itself is a gorilla right there. I mean,
True.
I mean, you go to, I don't know, name better, Constant Contact, Mailchimp, things like that. You're putting your data in another source altogether. Like, what's your CRM? Like, where are you putting things? Where are you keeping things joined? Uh, Having all in HubSpot, I mean, you're building lists. You're sending the right things to the right people at the right time. It's sorry, a lot of Kool-Aid. I love it. It's really good stuff.
I think you've preempted our next topic, I think, which is probably the connected
Mm,
nature of this CMS.
yeah.
Now, as we said, we're talking mostly to people who either have HubSpot CRM or Marketing Hub or understand it and appreciate it.
Mhm,
Um,
mhm.
but the fact that HubSpot Content Hub CMS is seamlessly connected with that platform enables what you're talking about, which is like the getting to it, getting into action when it comes to that multi-channel marketing effort and the rest. That
Yeah,
connection to the platform is, well, it's unmatched, right?
right. No, no. I for the longest time when I was a developer, I only thought about the site itself. I never really thought about why. there without the CRM aspect to it, without connecting the dots, without having all the analytics in it, what is the point of your website? And how are you actually knowing if it's worth it, right? Is your website doing a good job for you? You can, yes. Again, everything with WordPress, you can build it out, but it's so complicated. With HubSpot, it's not like an aggregate record. You can individualized analytics on whoever's visiting your site. You can see what they're saying, why they're there, and you can make judgment calls from that. You can go to your execs and say, "This is working," or "This isn't working, and we need to pivot," or "We need to do more of this."
Yeah.
Um, the the holistic approach is going to make your life so much easier. I mean, you're going to see your family more often because you're not worried about making sure everything's connected at all times.
Yeah, it's when you think about most businesses are trying to provide like a seamless, cohesive customer experience to
Hmm.
improve,
Hmm.
to reduce friction, improve sales, and yet I've seen it again and again. Like the very first point of that journey is detached, disconnected,
Hmm.
and not part of that whole go-to-market motion. And I think that matters. I think that that's a, a point of differentiation for businesses that adopt now and get ahead of the curve. I think it
For
really is
sure.
very important.
For sure.
Um, and then, I mean, not having to export and import and migrate and move data to be able to do basic marketing is just, well,
I mean,
nobody should be in that
that's
situation.
like just self mutilation. It's like torture to yourself to have to do that on an ongoing basis. And I guarantee the data is going to be flawed because you're going to import's going to go bad. You're going to miss something, and you are not going to have a complete picture. It will
Yeah.
happen, and the more traffic you have to your site, the more disconnected and most likely not representative it's going to be, unless it's all connected in one place, and it's going the same place. You have a system of truth, that you can always count on. When someone's in the CRM doing something to a record, that person, if I update your industry, different smart content going to that person now, added to a different list, new emails going out to that person, where they are in your leads, they top funnel, bottom funnel, where they're going.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the ability to get that data from your website into your marketing, activity is amazing. It's brilliant.
Hmm.
But the fact that HubSpot can go beyond that thanks to its CRM and be the seamless connection to the sales process, because I've seen lots of integrations between marketing systems and CRMs. I've seen
Hmm.
lots of integrations between HubSpot and other
For sure.
CRMs,
For sure.
and I don't think I've ever seen one that everybody was completely thoroughly satisfied with. Most integrations between CRMs and other systems have a pain point, have a
Mhm.
omission that people wished wasn't there. And of course, on
Yeah.
this platform, it's non-existent. The one database, all available to all the tools, all the users, whichever way you configure the permissions, you want, and
Mhm.
that is incredible. And I think that's again, I've seen lots of integrations, and I've yet to see one that didn't have any points of complaint about them.
For sure. I mean, I know this is not CMS specific, but like we actually look at the integrations coming into HubSpot, whereas in WordPress, it's free for all. You don't know, right? It could be anything. I have personal relationships with the people who actually go through themes and really rate them, make sure that they're doing the best standards, and they'll be in contact personally with a theme developer to make sure that they know what they need to actually get up to snuff to the correct standards, which is
Yeah,
pretty great, really. I mean, that's like we're looking out for you and we're making sure that you're not getting some random, sketchy app that you're adding to your HubSpot, to steal whatever data. That's not going to happen because we're watching it.
yeah. It's the Apple App Store approach to
Yes.
business
Yes.
operations.
Hmm.
Quality controlled, curated, and people who care about it.
Quality over quantity is how we approach it.
That's nice. That's nice. I think you also touched upon, teased our next topic, which was probably analytics, um, and the ability to see what's happening inside your website on the
Yes.
Content Hub, and
Mhm.
by association, the rest of your customer lifecycle.
Yeah, for
That's
sure.
obviously
For
got
sure.
you pretty excited.
Yeah. No, as I said, Google Analytics is great, but it's aggregate, right? It's like large data that you can use, but you can't really pinpoint down to
Yeah.
an individual user, which is just part of having it all within HubSpot. I'm not. You're going to use Google Analytics regardless, right? It's going to always be there, I believe. But I think you're going to get more data with the CRM than you would out like work. What do you get out of WordPress? Honestly, I don't even know what the good plugin is for that anymore.
No, I can't really comment. Like you say, it certainly doesn't provide you with the ability to dashboard out,
Right, right, right.
report on, and really understand your data
Hmm.
in that way. And WordPress, we're here, we're talking about WordPress, comparing it to HubSpot. We're not talking about Google specifically, but I have to say, I've not referred to my own Google Analytics now for some years.
Mm,
Now, I'm not saying that's going to always be the case for all businesses, right? There are situations where Google's the only tool that'll do the job. But
sure, sure.
for businesses that are growing, SMEs, scaling up to enterprise, selling certain types of products, I think for many businesses, HubSpot not only provides all the analytics you need /
Hmm.
could want, but it's all the way down, as you said, to that individual opportunity
Yes.
level. And that data is so much more insightful than statistical data on its own.
Exactly. I mean, it's an average. If you have a large data set, you're just averaging it, where you can't pull out like key insights. There are things that you're going to be okay. This is interesting data. I mean, to be perfectly honest, this is my least amount of fluency in this, but I find it to be very fascinating. And like I see people like you. We spoke a long time ago in a podcast with, I think it
Yeah.
was you and Tim, and just listening to you talk about the potential of the analytics in HubSpot really blew my mind. It's something I want to be when I grow up.
Yeah, I mean, we get heaps of value and satisfaction out of it. Ultimately,
Mhm.
you know, the reason for having a website is to start people off on a process, on a journey of
Yeah.
understanding why doing business with us or our customers is good for them in their
Right.
business. And
Right.
the
I,
ability to understand who's finding us, what's their experience, where are they going, where do they convert, where don't they convert, and so on is just so valuable. And it's what we use to sense check all of our decisions. So yeah,
you like
HubSpot.
campaigns. Can you speak to campaigns? Because I think that's really cool how you can aggregate your landing pages to your social media, to all the good stuff. I
Yeah,
find
I
that to
mean,
be
if you want to put your assets together under a campaign umbrella, again, you haven't got to go shopping for some solution to do that. You haven't got
right.
to buy an attribution tool necessarily. You've got the ability in HubSpot to spin up that campaign, connect your assets to it, and understand what engagement, what effect that campaign is having on contacts and visitors to your website. So it's
Mhm.
all right there without a third party tool or platform in sight.
And one more thing is I'm going to say it again. I'll probably say it several times because we're leaning heavy into it. But AI is there
Yeah.
to actually on each record. It's going to be like helping you analyze that person, that persona. It's just you're going to see that sprinkled throughout the entire experience, which is
Yeah.
going to be super helpful for you.
Yeah, I think so. AI is a really interesting topic, and obviously, it's pretty pervasive these days. I think one thing that I've said a few times is that HubSpot, generally speaking, are doing all of its customers a huge favor by making sure they're at the cutting edge of AI.
Mhm. Mhm.
Like, truth be told, not all AI tools are as great as they're cracked up to be.
No, no.
Adoption is not transforming businesses throughout yet,
Mhm.
but it's improving all the time. It's changing the way we think about tasks that we have on our task list.
Mhm.
And pretty much anytime you think about using an AI tool as part of your process, HubSpot has something built in that is
For
proving
sure.
itself to be pretty effective. And it's going to keep pushing that boundary.
Definitely. And like again, another aside, and I apologize for distracting. They're like it's built on the data set that you have in your HubSpot instance. It's not, it's you're using that data, and it's not going to have some random, data coming from somewhere else. It's looking specifically at your stuff, which is, I mean, that's your personal AI right there, which is really, really cool.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the future and the potential is great. And yeah, by partnering with HubSpot as a customer, you're just going to be kept right there, which I think is the most powerful thing anybody can do right now. Because as I say, there's a
Yep.
long way to go before we understand the full
Indeed.
implications and ramifications.
Yeah. Totally agree.
I think we had a topic for support and like the resources, the knowledge, the community, the support that exists, and probably the thing that differentiates HubSpot most significantly from WordPress in this context is the fact that there is commercial support
I was
provided
going to
by
say, what does support in WordPress even mean? You need to define what that actually is, because I've not found that professional support yet.
Yes, well, I mean, that's it, isn't it? There is no support
Yeah.
from WordPress itself,
Mhm.
and again, there's a large community around
Mhm.
WordPress, and that's where most people have got their support over the years.
Mhm.
But that's not the same as having a phone number or an email address or a live chat with
Yeah.
a team that know the platform and its implementation
Mhm.
inside out. So
Yeah.
again, for businesses who are looking at what matters to them when it comes to their website, reliability at one end of the food chain that we've talked about, and the ability to talk to somebody at the other end, I think is fundamental and important.
Yeah, that's one, and I want to double down on that once again, because I remember when I was working at the agency, calling a HubSpot support was actually a good experience. Like it actually, you talk to someone who
Yeah.
cared. It seemed like, right? And that, now that I work there, I know they actually do care. They have a great job, and they actually take ownership of what you're talking to. If they don't know the answer, they escalate it, they get back to you. I love HubSpot support. I don't know if I can say that about any other company that I've had to deal with support.
Yeah, got to give credit where credit's due, which is HubSpot support is pretty darn good
Yeah.
compared to most of the other experiences we have. And given that it can't be easy to operate a
No,
support function as polite
I
and
mean,
helpful as that one.
yeah, the support. I mean, just a shout out to them, seriously, because they have to navigate the entire HubSpot ecosystem. Like HubSpot's huge. The things it can do is so huge, and to be an individual person who has to be able to deal with all that in a competent way, and not get so stressed out because you're dealing with someone whose site, like has an issue, and you want to make sure that they're happy. Yeah, good job, guys. Seriously,
Yeah,
you're all amazing. And then
totally.
I apologize. Can I say community? Like,
Yeah,
is the reason I work at HubSpot.
right.
Like, the community is maybe the friendliest, most helpful community I've ever experienced. I know this is not an ad for HubSpot, but I genuinely believe, like, I would not be an employee at HubSpot if it wasn't for how amazing the community was. And Phil, you're a huge part of that as well.
Yeah, yeah. Well, exactly. You're a huge part of that. So community.hubspot.com is where users and employees and partners all come together to help one another with
Mhm.
whatever's on their mind. When I say that when facts aren't what you're looking for opinions, go to
Hey, yeah,
community
yeah, yeah.
to some degree. So
That's
yeah, I mean, it's a great place that's had a huge impact on a lot of people's lives. I mean, it's the
for sure.
reason I was on stage at Inbound last year, so
Huh,
I can't knock
yeah.
it. Um, so like you said, like there's commercial support, there's community, and then
Mhm,
you add to that the knowledge base, which is just an incredible resource, probably
mhm.
the best knowledge base in B2B SaaS, like just
Yeah,
in anything,
yeah.
and the academy as well, and then all the great people. It just
Oh
keeps
my god, the
going and going and
Academy.
going.
Isn't I
Yeah,
mean, like, it's so, yeah, the Academy is amazing. The knowledge base and the dev docs, they're doing huge work. They're evolving their processes to make sure that, once again, AI is able to easily fetch the data and use it to, provide correct answers. They are so cutting edge and working so hard to make sure you get what you need out of it. It's incredible.
developers can be hard to please, I know, and so
Really?
I know HubSpot gets some constructive feedback on its dev docs from
Indeed,
time to time.
indeed.
Knowledge base, I mean, for a marketer, knowledge base is just next level. Of just
Yeah,
you
I totally
can't go
agree.
wrong with it, really. Absolutely. Okie dokie. I think so. The next topic, if I remember correctly, is actually what I think is probably one of the largest or hardest to put to bed objections, which is around how do you customize, how do you extend, how do you, fork, change, mess with what this CMS does? Because of
Mhm,
course we don't have server side access,
mhm,
so
mhm,
we can't go crazy. That's obviously one of the reasons people, sometimes, you know, I don't want to say defend, but like WordPress, like plugins that run
mhm,
server side, therefore let you do all
mhm.
this crazy stuff. How does HubSpot think about, approach, offer customization and extendability? What's the best parts of it for you?
Yeah, no, first of all, I want to disagree. Like you can make calls to external systems if you want to. Use
Thank you.
serverless functions, for example. Like, it's available to you, but it's not obvious. I guess, like, it's probably not the first thing you're thinking of when you start building on a HubSpot CMS. That's not first thing.
Yeah.
When HubDB was introduced, it kind of changed everything. Like, I think it was that and dynamic pages generated from HubDB, which basically means, like, you have a table. From that table, a website page will take that data and build a site specific to that table. Like the data on that table. Like, for example,
Hmm.
FitHub. Um, that changed everything. That's like that's dynamic pages. That's where it's easily updated, and you are passing in really cool things. That started it. Custom objects was the game changer. I mean, this is like where you, as the marketer, or you get to define what an object is, and then you can push that out onto a page. Oh my God, you can do whatever you want. I mean, it just changes everything.
Yeah, yeah, you're right. I mean, it was like a series of dominoes falling, wasn't it? Like all
Yeah,
the things that
yeah,
we thought, oh, maybe HubSpot isn't great at that. They just
right.
kind of got chipped away over time. HubDB made loads of stuff that's kind of core, kind of critical, very, very
Hmm.
easy to do.
Yeah.
Custom objects, I mean, just rip the lid off stuff, of course. And
Yes.
to your point, serverless functions allow people to go outside the platform. I think the big difference is you can't just go to an unvetted, unknown third-party developer,
No.
take their bit of server-side vulnerability code, and smash it
Yeah.
into your
For sure
business
not.
critical
For sure not.
infrastructure.
Yeah. No. 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 That's definitely not going to happen. And also, if, like, another nice thing we do is, like, if you commit an access token to GitHub, for example, we are actually scouring that, and we'll rotate your key if you do that. So we don't want you to, you know, take your security. Security is very important to us. So yeah,
Yeah,
that's not going to happen. Um, Hubble's an interesting one because we're actually moving more React as
yeah,
well right now. There's two ways to go about it. Hubble is a great templating language. I think it's very simple, easy, and to learn, and it's very, very powerful. Uh, but we've also noticed that React is an important language in the developer community now, and now we're starting to, employ that as well. Our latest
yeah,
default theme uses that.
yeah, yeah. Noted. Yeah, with Hubble, you can get the job done. But I think it's really interesting and exciting that you're supporting React. And my dev team talk about that a lot. I don't claim to understand the ins and outs of that one, but yeah, we're keeping a close eye on where that goes and seeing how we can apply that. And you're just giving more choices to developers so that more of them can utilize this platform and achieve their aims and objectives. And
Yeah.
maybe even succeed as a business on this platform, which so
Hmm.
many partners have done. My hot take about
Ooh.
extensibility, about customizability,
Hmm. Hmm.
is that you can do absolutely everything on HubSpot that you can do on a CMS, a server, open source server based CMS like WordPress, but you've got to want it enough to go to the cost and effort to build it securely.
Yes.
Everything that's done on HubSpot is based on security and the reliability of the system, the platform for you, for your co-customers, for the world. And you can't just go around undermining that for your own business or for anyone else's. And so I think that's the really interesting thing that all of HubSpot's APIs, serverless functions, HubDB, they offer you all that flexibility, but it's got to be important enough to your business. It's got to have enough value and meaning to want to get over that hurdle of building it safely.
That's true. And I would say that wasn't even the case, what, 6 years ago, before the CLI came out. Like, you had to do it within the design manager. You didn't have access to actually write your own code, really. I mean, like, you could write some
Yeah,
HTML, but it was much more limited. And now you do have much more limitless access to write what you want for your website. You're
yeah,
correct. I don't even know if that's a hot take. I think that's just like general wisdom. Like, you're writing code, you have to be thinking about how you're writing that code, which, again, this is important for anyone listening. You need an agency that is going to actually do this correctly for you, right? I mean,
that's true.
I a person who can build a good site, you want in your life, because they're going to be your best friend.
Yeah,
Have them
yeah.
around.
In-house or in agency, you need good people that know what they're doing and care about the right stuff. I
Totally
completely
agree.
agree.
Totally agree.
We're always more than happy to help people understand what's possible, how we go about it, and how to do it right. That's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, all right, super duper. Well, look, we've covered the layers. I'm hearing from the back of the room from my producer that we've got some questions.
Oh.
My screen up here has gone down, so I am going to have to get our producer Dan's help to get some of these questions out, because they're also in reverse on the screen.
Yes.
How is HubSpot with SEO? How is HubSpot with SEO, Dennis?
I think it's pretty freaking amazing. And this is just a simple example. You import an image into the page editor, you'll see an alt text appear below it where you can fill it out automatically right there, done. And that is just like a simple example of how you can easily add SEO value to your site. SEO is also a lot about how quickly your site loads, which is where the CDNs come in. The server side renderings happening. So basically we will make a copy of your site on the server and we'll push it down as HTML, which is small code base. Google loves this. The quicker you can get to it, the better. Those are some easy answers to that. I would just always emphasize HubSpot started as a marketing company. We build marketing websites. So
SEO.
This is what we do.
Yeah, I would say agree completely. Like, HubSpot's platform, the infrastructure is built for speed and performance, which is fundamental to SEO.
Mm-hmm.
The CMS software has got your back when it comes to technical on-page SEO. It's all built in. You would have to work pretty hard to sort of undo it and put yourself in a worse position when it comes to, can I put a meta title, meta description, alt title, H1, etc., etc., etc. Now, you can do yourself a lot of harm if you develop poorly, and that's where we and other partners come in, right? The code has a big impact on that final performance. But as you saw on the slide we showed earlier, we regularly hit, the greens across the board when it comes to core web vitals. So because the platform is so finely tuned, you'll typically see, after a period of re-indexing, a website that's moved from WordPress to HubSpot will often come back stronger in terms of SEO, better positions, more traffic, and all the tools you need to build on that. So it's great.
Yeah. I want to push a little bit harder even on the migration from WordPress to HubSpot. That is a time where you get to reevaluate your site, the architecture, how it's built. This is when you want to just stop and think and work with experts in this to make sure it's doing what you want in the first place. And what do we need to really emphasize and make better? Because there's always going to be issues, right? And this is your opportunity to just take a moment, take a pause, and build it properly from the beginning.
Definitely agreed. All right, cool. Maybe we've got another question. No, that's the only question for today. All right, I think we're going to wrap it up there. Any final thoughts, Dennis, that we didn't touch on? Any things you were hoping we would talk about?
No, you covered basically everything, and I always love talking to you. This has been a hoot.
Well, you said at the start of the call that you're always the host and never the guest. So I just want to thank you and applaud you for being an excellent guest.
Well, thank you very much. Hopefully it worked out. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. I think it worked out great, and I hope my hosting was all right. Was up to your standards and expectations.
I took notes.
Likewise. All right, cool. Thank you, Dennis. Thank you, everyone. That's been a great session. Very informative. Appreciate everybody's time, and we'll see you again soon. Cheerio.